Hello people of the internet. One of the main challenges when learning programming is to find interesting project to do in order to train and increase the programming skills. What I personally always like to do is to write programs which use different APIs to get some data, analyze it, and or to perform different actions. An example of such API we can find on the Coinbase. I think it's the largest cryptocurrency market exchange out there. If we go to the developer tab, just right here, and connect, what we can see is that they have even dedicated library which allows us in Python to sell and buy or simplify selling and buying the cryptocurrency. We will not go so far in this episode, but instead we are going to use way simpler API, which is just here. When we enter this URL, this address, and press enter, what we get in the response is a simple JSON file where we can find the basic information about the Bitcoin. This is the information that this is Bitcoin, this is the price around 5,000, and this is the currency, USD, American dollars. The goal for today's episode is to write very simple program which will be collecting this data, and then with the use of SQL Alchemy, which we already know from the previous episode, our program will be saving that data to the SQLite database. And at the end, we are going to use Pandas to retrieve and visualize that data. Let's get started. I have already written part of the program. This is the part which with the use of the SQL Alchemy will be creating the database called DBSQL with one table. It's very simple. If you are new to the SQL Alchemy, just check the previous video, everything is well described there. At the beginning we are importing the necessary information, then we are creating the database, SQLite, and that's the name of the database, and then we create the class which will be translated into the table, what we are going to see just in a second. In the table we want to have 4 columns. The column with the information what cryptocurrency we are collecting, the data about which cryptocurrency we are collecting, the date when we collect that data, the currency, so US dollars in our case, and the price. We also have the constructor, which is not mandatory but it's pretty handy. In our case, constructor creates automatically the column with the date time, so we will have the information when exactly we have collected that Bitcoin price. And at the end we just execute create all functions, so we create the database if not yet exist with the database. Okay, let's run this program, and then we can go to the folder to check if the database has been created. We have a DB, double click, let's open it, let's see if the table has been created as requested. So we have the table prices and we have 4 columns. At the beginning there is of course no data in our database. So what we need to do now, we need to write the part of the program which will be collecting the information from the REST API, and with the use of the SQL Alchemy we are going to save it in that database. Let's call the file Coinbase Python, and we need to import at the beginning through libraries. We are going to use REST API, so we need library request, we need library DB, so we are importing the file which we have just seen, so we can use our database and our class. And then we wanna import session maker from SQL Alchemy. SQL Alchemy, if I remember it well, it will be in the following way: session maker. Okay, now let's create our session, and so we will use the session maker object to create the connection with the DB engine which has been created in the previous file. It's over here. And then once again session. At the end of the project we will need to close the session. We can write it straight away, not to forget about it. Session close. So as the first step, let's just try to get the information in the most simple possible way. We create the new variable, let's call it res, and we use the library request get. Here we will type the address to our API, and we just want to have the information in the JSON format, so we just need to get the URL which is here, copy that and paste here, and if we print this we should get the JSON file with the price of the Bitcoin, and here it goes. What we want to do, we want to extract this, and this information and then save it to the database. In order to extract that, it's pretty straightforward. We just need to say that we want this part of the JSON data, and we want to have this part of the JSON. Let me copy that 3 times, actually 2 times. Okay, then we want to have the information about the currency, and at the end we want to have the information about the price, which is called amount. Okay, if we execute the program this time, we should get precisely those 3 information, nothing more. Okay, so this is what we want to get. So this part of the program works well. Now we want to take that data and save it to our database. Actually, in order to do so, we can define the new function, which will be called div add price, and we want to have the function which will take 3 parameters: coin, currency, and price. Okay, function will be very simple. It will create the object which is based on this class, but based on the class prices. So db prices, and we will use the constructor to pass those parameters: coin, currency, and price. Very simple. Then we want to add this object to the session add. We will see if how many errors I have done, and session commit, just to save the changes. Okay, if everything works well, now we should not only retrieve the information about the Bitcoin price, but we should also save it to our database. Actually, we need to execute our function add price, and as the parameters we pass the same as to the function print. Okay, let's save it, let's run it, and after that we should have 1 row in our database. Let's check it out. Again, let's open it. DB browser for SQL View, SQLite, really handy tool. Browser data, and we have 1 row. So we have, I think, at least half of the program. So we want to collect, of course, more data. So let's do the simple while loop. While true, and we will be collecting the data about the Bitcoin price. We will not collect it all the time, but we want to collect it once per sleep, let's say 10 seconds, and just we need to import the library time. Okay, so what we are going to do, we will run this program and we will wait a couple of minutes to collect some information about the data prices, and then once we will have it in our database, then we will try to connect to it with Pandas and visualize to see what is the trend of our Bitcoin price. Okay, we have collected some data. We were not waiting too long, to be honest, but let's check our database. Let's see how many data we have collected. So browser data, and we have 28 rows. Okay, not too much, but we see that the price of the Bitcoin was changing over that time. So we can jump to our Jupyter notebook, to Pandas, and try to visualize that. Okay, let me close this one, and we have the Jupyter notebook already opened. So it should be pretty straightforward. We import at the beginning Pandas as PD, and then we need to import SQLite 3 because we are going to connect to the database. What we do at the beginning, we establish the connection to SQLite 3 connect, I think, never remember, and here we are pasting the path to our database. So we need to take it from here, and that's the path to our database. Okay, we have this one. Let's try to run it. We don't have any errors, or we have errors. We have error because instead of 3 I have typed 2. Okay, now we don't have any error, so we can try to connect to our database and create the data frame, df, like a data frame, Pandas, and the function was read SQL. The first parameter is the SQL query we are passing. select star from the table name. The table name was prices. And then the connection to our database, which is con. Let's print that data frame, and it looks fine. The next thing is to check the database types, column types, the types, okay. And one thing which we see is that the date has been imported not as the date time as we would like to, but as the object. In order to visualize the time series data in Pandas, we want to change that column into the date time type and then set it as the index. So let's do so now. So df data, date, it's pd to date time, and now once again the column name date, and now let's set it to df2. Let's set it as the index. Data frame set index, and the name of the column date. Let's print out the data frame 2. Okay, so we have a date as our index, and then we have the price. Now, after running the function plot, we should get a very basic visualization of that data. Let's check it, data frame 2 and plot, and that should be the very standard time series visualization, and it works. The chart is not the most fancy one. We could extend it, we could add the title and play a little bit with it, but anyway, it works. Okay, that was the very simple program we wrote in that episode. So we have created the database with the use of SQL Alchemy, and then we wrote a program which just collect every 10 seconds the price of the Bitcoin, and again with the SQL Alchemy adding to that to the database, and at the end we used Python to visualize the results. I hope that the movie will be helpful for some of you to train Python. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you soon.